Naval Ravikant built a $4 billion company, AngelList. He is worth over $100 million, and he has a book that shares all the secrets on how to build wealth and how to build happiness. I have a part 1, but I have so many more lessons from him, and I keep picking up this book and reading it and studying it. So I'm going to share some more lessons. Let's dive in. And if you want more videos on mastering your money, your mindset, your habits, and your emotions along the way to create a life you love, feel free to click subscribe.
All right, number 1, find work that feels like play. I know a lot of people have warned against this, and they're like, don't do what's fun. Don't do what you love. Why would you do that? That is stupid. But if you can find something you're passionate about, something that you enjoy, using that specific knowledge, the things that you are innately good at, part of your DNA, part of your upbringing, part of your experience in life, you're going to be happier and more fulfilled. And he said that we were actually hunters and gatherers, right? But then we moved to the Industrial Revolution, and people started working more for others. But back in the day, it was mostly for the self, and there were businesses. And that was just how it was. And so if you feel this call to the self, to the business, to service, but to being your own boss, then that is okay. And to follow that instinct and to follow that desire. Remember, money is a game. Okay, just like Monopoly, maybe like Sorry, Twister, whatever. It's a game, okay, or a sport that you play. And so understanding the game, like Naval, he started off with like no money, very poor. He loved the game and solving problems. And remember, if you solve big problems, like Naval did with his company AngelList, and ended up selling it for $4 billion, the more problems you solve and the more complex, tricky, difficult, or hard, you will make more money. So we want to look for these problems and how we can solve them. What are the tricky problems that people don't want to solve? And how can I make it easy? How can I make it fast? How can I do it the best? Okay. And then maybe it's not a tricky problem. Like there's companies like, acne. I guess that is somewhat tricky, but it's not like the most complex thing in the world. But that's a big thing that impacts millions, if not billions of people. And people hate having acne. Most people get sad and don't like that. And so that's a problem that you can solve for. And it's the law of affection, like talked about in the Millionaire Fast Lane, where if you can affect or impact or help or serve more people, you are going to make more money. So we want to know that money is simply a game. It's not going to solve all of our problems. It's not going to just magically make us a happy person. But we want to play the game so that we can be free of the game, have choice, have opportunity. You might see people who have this wealth and have this freedom, choice, opportunity, and ability, and you might want that, and that's okay. Play the game so that you can get to this point. It is critical. This is a famous saying of Naval's. The way to escape competition. Okay, so if you want to start a business, if you want to create value, if you want to have impact, if you want more resources, if you want that money like we talked about, to get the freedom, to get all of those things, free, peace, happiness, we need to move away from some of the competition. We need to get away from it, okay? And how do we escape it? How? The best way to escape competition is through authenticity. Authenticity. So the more you can be you, you can bring your skills, you can bring your value, you can bring your interests, your experience, and figure out how to package it, offer it, sell it, etc., then you are going to make more money, right? And so Naval says you want to take risks under your own name. Okay? Like starting a YouTube channel, it's under Elizabeth Davenport. Okay, I take those risks of putting myself out there, looking stupid, whatever. But when something good happens, I am going to be the one who gets rewarded, right? And I get that joy of helping people, right? I get the joy of helping people. I get to have that control of where I'm the one who gets to make some of the decisions and can work on my own time. I might get some resources, etc. Just like Naval with his business angel list, if he wasn't the CEO, if he wasn't the one in charge, he wouldn't get the money or the result, right? And so you have to be the one in order to get whatever you want. Okay, remember we want leverage. This is the ability to multiply effort. Right? So remember, if we are a teacher in a regular classroom, especially an elementary classroom, you might teach 18 to 23 kids. Okay, that's amazing. That's so important in the impact. But you're going to be able to make a certain income. If you're in Virginia, maybe 56,000 to 140,000 plus. Okay? But like Ali Abdal is a teacher online and he makes over $10 million a year. Now, is that guaranteed? Is that easy to do? No, but he used leverage, multiplying effort, and you can use like money or capital. You can use the internet, code, other people, and that will multiply not only your effort, but if your effort is multiplied, your results are. And like here, if you can impact more people, you're gonna have more results because you reached more people, okay? And so if you have a place to stand, a long enough lever, and some fulcrum here, you can move the earth. And so find the things where you can use leverage. How can you multiply your own effort? How can you reach more people or reach the right people? Okay, be thinking of leverage and remembering this formula. If you apply leverage and you are patient, you get better, you are consistent, then everything's going to work out for you. Everything's going to work out. Okay? But remember this leverage, remember this formula. Stand here, you got to get in the game, you got to get playing, you got to have that basketball hoop, you got to play, take some shots on goal or on net, use your leverage, good things will happen. All right, have you heard of networking? Where you need to basically meet more people. Okay? Naval has a very interesting take on this. He says, build. Build what you want to build. Your skyscraper, your YouTube channel, your new software app, whatever you want to create. Lego set. Build what you want to build. I would say build your skills, build yourself, build your business, build your value. So build you. Remember, the more valuable you are and the more value you provide, the more money, happiness, wealth, relationships, all the good things will come to you when you are a more high value person, right? And so if we spend the time, money, effort into building us here, you don't really have to worry about this so much. You don't have to worry about the networking. Build you, and you're going to attract the right people, okay? Yes, you do maybe have to put yourself out there. Maybe you do need to post to social media, okay? Maybe you need to interact with the world. But when you are building something that is valuable, when you are that valuable person, you're going to attract more. I see this all the time, right? Even if you're like this super fit, strong, muscly person in the gym, that's going to attract, like, you're like, whoa, that person is so disciplined, strong, resilient, like hardworking, right? And so that's going to attract good things. If you are a person, a young person, and you are working on your skills, you end up having a good education, you get a great job, you work on yourself and heal yourself, you are kind and helpful and like all these great qualities, you're going to attract a better partner, right? And so if you have this awesome set of skills or this awesome business, or like eventually hopefully we're going to have this awesome YouTube channel, we will attract the right people, and networking isn't going to be the same. Like, you don't have to network in the same way. You build you build your business, you build the value, and the people will come. Build it, they will come. Going along with people. Okay, people can be awesome. They can be driven. They can be healthy. They can be healed and peaceful. They can be patient, disciplined, hardworking, caring, smart. The list goes on and on, right? But they can also be draining or on the struggle bus and struggling. They could be negative. They could have poor habits, have a poor mindset. They don't take care of themselves, don't do the work, don't heal, and so they spill onto everyone else, etc., and a lot more. And so we get to choose if we want to be this type of person, or if we already are this type of person. Yep, that's me. You might identify with that, right? The more you spend time with people who have some of these traits or all of them, the lower you're going to go, the lower you're going to feel, the worse your outcomes will be. And so if you want someone to rocket launch you up into the stars, up to the moon, you need to be around yourself that's like this, and if you can find other people that are like this. It's better to do the work on you, be you, and launch yourself up there. You could do it by just getting down, being gritty, and figuring out yourself. But it's really important to find the right people along the way. Naval says, let me get a new paper. The closer you want to get to me, the better your values must be. Okay? And this is so, so true. If you are trying to be this high value person, high value, successful, happy, healthy, wealthy, all the things, you can't spend time with all these people. And you can't let their opinions, their thoughts get to you and get inside of you. Because who you're around matters. So what are people's values? What are you going to accept into your life? Who are you going to accept? What actions? What mindsets? And what beliefs? Because these will shape your life. And so be super careful. And tip, follow people on social media. That completely changed my life. If you want to be around more people, high performers, you can be around the billionaires. You can be around the millionaires. You can be around the great moms, dads, healthy people, fit people. Find them. There's so many of them out there. Find them. First, there's random or blind luck. This is where just something out of their control happens. Whether it's fate, fortune, etc. Sometimes it just is random. Okay. And so we don't want to optimize for random because that's not necessarily going to help us. If that happens, great. But that's not giving us the control. So what's next? Next is hustle luck. So it's by just doing the work. You are putting out so much energy. You are working super hard. And by persisting and continuing on. Hustle, motion, the law of physics. You're going to increase your odds of getting lucky. Remember we talked about like attracting the wealth, right? And so if we become this person or we have this awesome business, we can maybe start to attract what we want. Or if we become super fit, happy, healed, healthy, we're going to attract maybe the partner we want, right? And so that is part of the hustle luck. But the harder you work, yes, you can get more lucky. Number 3 is spotting luck. So like someone like Humphrey Yang, he noticed that there wasn't on TikTok when it was super new, there wasn't a lot of finance content. And he was a financial advisor in his past. And so he started just posting every single day. So he also put in the hustle, the hard work, but he posted every single day. And then he has millions of followers now. But he spotted that. He noticed the pattern, the trends, or an opportunity because it was going to TikTok and he's like, we need some educational content here. We need some money, but there's not there. Right now there's a lot of that. And so it's a little bit harder or a lot harder. So if you can spot the luck, find the opportunity, that can help you a lot too. And the last one is building, like we talked about. So if you do something amazing, if you do something incredible, if you like build an awesome product, if you have like this amazing skill or whatever it is, you can maybe attract it by what you build. And so build things of value. Don't just sit around and do nothing. You want to start creating things that could attract people who want it. One of my mentors, Jesse Itzler, talks about this too. Create your own luck. Okay? He started a private jet business, NetJets, sold it to Warren Buffett for a few $1 billion. He was in his 20s at the time, okay? He's like, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to get clients? And he ended up going to the TEDx conference where a lot of really successful people were or speaking, and he noticed that they were going to this one coffee shop and getting coffee or a latte and a muffin. And so he bought all the muffins. And then when a customer went by, he noticed he just had the latte and he had asked, "Do you have a muffin?" They said, "No, we're out." He goes, "Excuse me, sir. I have a muffin. Would you like one?" Right? And the guy's like, "What? Oh, no way. You rock. Sure, let's sit down." He sits down with Jesse, talks about business, and guess what? Jesse says what he does. He's got the airplane, he's got the jet, and he says he needs one. And he ends up being his first customer. Okay, but if Jesse would have just sat at home in his little house and whined and complained, etc., how is luck going to come to him? Unless he's using social media or something. Okay? Create it. Go to the right people. Put yourself in situations where you can get lucky. So be clever, be creative, be innovative, and use that imagination of yours to build what you want. If you're going to work with people, and even just yourself, so this is you, you want to have a few qualities. Naval says you want to be trusted, you want to be reliable, high integrity, and a long-term thinker. Okay? These are the types of people he wants around him. And so you want to be this type of person, right? If you're trying to build a brand, if you are trying to offer a product or a service, you need to be trusted. People need to trust you. So what would you need to do to be a trusted person, right? So think of those things, and then you would implement those habits. Like any quality, like a patient person, what are the habits or actions of a patient person, and then you do them, and then you will become trusted, right? Because that is now who you are, right? Reliable. What actions do you need to do? Do you show up? Are you consistent? Do you make things better? Okay, can we count on you? If you can, great. You're more reliable. High integrity, same. Like when things are tough, do you make the right choices? Do you have good character? Okay, people look for these things. And then a long-term thinker. Things don't happen overnight. So are we trying to figure it out tomorrow? Or are we giving ourselves more time? Are we thinking about the investments and investing in our Roth IRAs now? Or in our skills and education now, and we'll get paid more later, right? And so these are really key. Consider adding them and looking for people like this. If you're trying to make more money, maybe you're interested in business, selling products, services, something of that nature, okay? Now, Naval recommends to look for things, if you have a product, no marginal cost of replication. So this can be in multiple ways. So like Naval wrote this book, right? Okay, he wrote this book, or had someone help him write it. Once he puts in the hours here, whether he put 1,000 hours, it's done. Like, it's complete. So he doesn't have to keep doing 1,000 hours, 1,000 hours, 1,000 hours over and over and over again. It's done. And then now he can distribute it and sell it and offer it. Okay, so this is a great thing. Or maybe you have a physical product, okay? And it's going to cost $100 to produce it, make it, manufacture it. If you had a product that was maybe online or like a PDF ebook or something, is that going to cost $100 or is that like $0? And then you get to keep the rest of the profits, right? And so, of course, there's a lot of businesses, we need products, we need these actual things, but it's just something to think about. You don't want to have a big cost of replication, or even this can work with a physical product if you do the work like Sarah Blakely did for Spanx. She eventually found what worked. The pantyhose, she found what worked. And so she had her product. She didn't have to replicate it or figure it out. I have it. I'm going to pay for manufacturing. I'm going to pay for what I need to do. I'm going to pay for marketing, or I'm going to do it all myself and get it out there. I have it, right? And so that is awesome. We talked about leverage, right? Naval says it's not going to be white collar versus blue collar. It's not going to be rich versus poor. It's going to be leveraged versus unleveraged. And so tapping into different things like books, code, media, software, different ways to leverage yourself. Remember, leverage your skills, your time, your product, your offering, your services. If you can use leverage, put that force, right? It's going to take you higher and you're going to make more money. And so that is the key. How can you use leverage to make more money? Maybe you start in an unleveraged position. Maybe you get the knowledge. Maybe you get the skills, or like as a teacher, you might have to get those degrees, get the education, but then you go into the social media world or the media world, or like Joe Rogan, $100 million deal, something like that. Yeah. $50 to $100 million a year by talking and teaching on his podcast, right? It's leverage. And again, it's the law of affection, reaching more people. So just something to consider, because people will wonder, well, why am I only making $80,000 a year or $40,000 a year? It is because of the skill, but it's also in the vehicle. And it's like what you chose, right? And so I have tons of books on this and videos on how to find the right path to reach your goals. It's not all about money, but just knowing there's a blueprint. You got to follow it. Naval says if you can learn to sell, and if you can learn to build, and if you add these together, you will be unstoppable. And so if you have a product, whether you created that or a service, you created it or not, doesn't matter, but sell. If you know how to sell it, if you know how to get it out there, if you know how to reach more people and get people to buy, obviously you're going to make more money and that's going to work for you. And then if you do build it, if you do create that product or service, or you can create that brand, or you can create whatever, obviously it's under your name. So you're going to get the reward. Remember, when you take the risk, the higher the risk, the higher the reward. And so it's uncomfortable, it's scary, but the people who don't take the risks or who take the medium risks will get the medium results. Or if you don't, you get that result. So if you want the greater result, you have to take the greater risk. So consider building something, selling something. This isn't everyone's path, but I want to share it for those who it is the path for. And you can still be a millionaire without doing this stuff, okay? But this is the way, especially it's coming from someone who built a $4 billion company. So if you are trying to do something like that or millions of dollars, this is the way. Warren Buffett, the most successful investor of all time, spends, sorry, I was counting 12. I don't know if I counted it right, but a year deciding, thinking, analyzing, figuring it out, and a day, a moment, acting. Okay, so I probably should have done like something smaller to represent this, but a day. So this lesson, you really need to spend time in figuring out what the right choice is, because one choice, one moment, 1 second can impact your whole life. We talk about this with having unprotected sex. That one little choice impacts the rest of your life. The rest of your life. One moment of drinking and driving, you could hit someone, and that impacts the rest of your life and other people's lives. Okay? And so a relationship, if you choose to be in a relationship with someone or you're figuring out who to marry, that's going to impact the rest of your life. Okay? And some of these things, it's easier to go back on or something, but spend more time here. You don't need to be in analysis paralysis forever. You can give yourself a deadline, but know that really smart, successful people do take time to make decisions. They do take time. Naval says that you will solve your problem by acting and by iterating. Okay, so if we're going along this process, eventually we'll find what works. Yay, this one works. We want this one. Woo! Okay, but we were iterating along the way and changing and evolving and growing. Action and trial and error leads to the results you want, leads to success. It's like practicing, getting better, okay? And then once you find what works, you just want to repeat it over and over and over and over and over again, right? If a YouTube video goes viral, you might want to consider, okay, what? And figure out why. Let's repeat that. People like the background. Cool. People like the topic. Can we go more in depth in this topic? People liked the editing style or whatever it was. How can we replicate what works? But you won't find what works until you do the action, the trial and error. Naval thinks everyone should be paid for their unique knowledge. Think of that. We know so much in our brains. And you can get paid for it. Yes, you can. And so what is that unique knowledge that you want to share, that you want to package, that you want to give? What is that knowledge and how can you use it? If you are earning with your time, you're only going to be able to make a certain amount of money. You're going to be capped. But if you earn with your mind, it's going to go off the charts and you're going to be able to make a lot more money. And so it's very, very important to work on your mind, your knowledge, your judgment. Okay, that's like even Warren Buffett making his decisions. If you can make better judgment calls, that's the difference between making 80% more or 90% more, he says. You can make significantly more money if you have better judgment. So how can you have better judgment? How can you improve your mind, your knowledge, and then actually use it? You can't just be super smart and then no one knows, because then why would money come to you? It's going to be blocked. It's going to be blocked because you're not getting it. You have to build this and then go figure out how to share it. Naval says karma is not the guy on the Chiefs, or it is if you are a Taylor Swift fan, but karma is simply you. It's what you're putting into the world. If you're putting love, value, strength, help, knowledge, wisdom, what are you putting into the world? That's going to compute good things out, right? Okay? Because that's what you put in. You get out what you put in. And it might not come to you tomorrow. I think that's where we can get mixed up. All right, I put this in. Is it coming out tomorrow? Not necessarily, but even it is in the little things. If you choose to have a positive attitude, if you choose to do these good things, you're probably going to feel a little bit better in the short term. But it is about the long term. Remember, we want long-term goals, long-term people. So karma will come to you. He said that in his life, he's seen so many successful people, and there was not one person who was like this high value, good person that didn't eventually win. Okay? And so just remember that and stay focused on that and have the faith and the belief that you can make it happen and that you will eventually figure it out. Remember, we're iterating, we're trying different things. Eventually you'll figure it out, then you can replicate it, and then all the happiness, wealth, money, and good things will come. All it takes is one. That's it. One choice. One connection. For YouTube, one video or message. One person. One product. One idea. One moment. And so how can we find that one? And so know that your life can change in an instant. Keep going. Naval talks about being a clear thinker. To him, is much more important than being called smart. Okay? Now, why is this? Because real knowledge is intrinsic. It is inside of you. Okay? And so if you have this knowledge, you are going to be able to make clear choices and better decisions and have better judgments. Okay? The smartest people who are actually these clear thinkers and actually smart, they can explain things so easily to children. Okay? They don't try to say and use all these fancy words, and they don't try to make it so complex and say, oh, they're so stupid, why don't they understand? No, if you really understand it, you can understand it in a sentence, in a short paragraph. And you can dumb it down without having a better way to say that, but make it more age appropriate for a third grader. If you can explain it to a third grader, a first grader even, and trust me, kids are more smart than you think. Treat them like they are capable and smart, and they will act that way. I've seen that with my own kids and with people at school and everything. Treat them this way, and you'll get the better outcome. You will. Have you ever heard of what would Jesus do? Okay, when Christians try to make a decision, they're like, well, what would Jesus do? What would be the right thing here? Okay? What would your friend do? Or what would you tell your friend to do? That's the key. And so we often see if someone is struggling that we know, we're like, it is so obvious. They never exercise and they're complaining about having no energy, no motivation. You know, they feel like crap. It's like they never exercise. So of course, and so you're like, duh, go exercise. It's easy to see from the outside, but sometimes when you're in it, you can be blinded to this stuff, okay? And so when you ask yourself, what would I tell my friend in this situation, but it's about you, like whatever you're dealing with. If you're like, well, I don't know, like my YouTube channel's this and this video, like what would I tell my friend? Well, your audio's off, like it's not very clear, your thumbnails stink, whatever. Okay. And maybe I wouldn't exactly explicitly tell my friend that, but it's obvious from the outside. So take an outside perspective. So instead of staying stuck in your brain, step out of yourself and kind of observe yourself this way. That can really, really help. If you want to be successful, you do want to manage your time. and you want to use it well, right? But you have to include time to think. You have to have free spots. You have to have breathing room, okay? So if you do have a very time-blocked calendar and it's very structured, that's cool. But do you have time just to think or do nothing or recharge, okay? Sarah Blakely, the billionaire founder of Spanx, talks about this too. That is her oxygen, she says. So give yourself time to think and to breathe, because that is where new ideas come from. That's where things get clearer, and that's where you can make better decisions and choices, which will then give you better outcomes. Naval says, cynicism is easy. Mimicry, easy. But optimistic, contrarians, are a rare breed. Okay? And so a contrarian would think independently. It doesn't mean you go against what everyone says, okay? But you're going to think independently and on your own. And if you think, hey, being a vegan is better for the environment, better for me, reduces suffering, good for my health, okay, that is contrary to what other people do. And that's okay, okay? I'm willing to think differently. I am going to be optimistic instead of say, oh, well, this could go wrong, this is bad. Oh yeah, 3 miles you ran, that's not that much. What the heck? That's not going to help. So remember, we want to be surrounded by good people, but we also want to be that good person. And so optimism, belief, and being willing to figure it out. That is what you have to be. You have to be willing to, and you have to believe it's possible. All people started with just an idea, and they started with desire and belief. If you don't believe, you're never going to achieve. You gotta believe. Tension is who you think you should be. But relaxation is who you really are. So how can you relax more into who you really are instead of feeling this tense way? When we are more relaxed, we are able to make better decisions. We are able to attract better things. How can we relax? Naval talks about inversion. This is Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's right-hand man, always talks about invert. Always invert. Alex Hormozy mentioned that Charlie says this too. But we think about what isn't going to work, right? Or like, if I wanted to be wealthy, I'm like, I don't know what to do. Oh gosh. But like, what would I not do, right? Think about the opposite. We invert it. And so if we want to get wealthy, instead of thinking, oh, I need to have assets, it's like, well, I would spend all my money. I would have a bad mindset. I would think rich people are stupid or evil. I would never learn. No learning here. I would never provide value. I would never invest or become an owner. I would never make my money work for me. I would never build a business. I would never help people. Okay, all these things. So we invert it. So try that in your life, to invert a situation. And that can give you more clarity and actually give you new ideas too. Naval says, if you can't decide, you can't make a choice, you're not sure, the answer is probably no. There's a reason. Like, a lot of people have said that if it's not a heck yes, then it's a heck no. And so wealthy people have said too that a no is a yes is a no. And so if you're saying no to the right things, you're saying yes to your dreams, your goals, whatever it is. And so you have to be really careful with and maybe with your indecision, it's like, well, I really don't want to do it, but I feel obligated. I feel like I need to do it, etc. Like there's this reason. And so you're like, I don't want to. And I can't decide because you're being pulled between like what you think you should do. Be careful of the shoulds versus this, or you're not sure, then don't. Or you're trying to decide between a house. And I know for some people, like I definitely analyze every side of the situation. So this could be hard. It's like, well, then am I ever going to choose? And maybe you just have a really high standard and maybe you shouldn't settle for a lower standard. So if you can't decide, especially for an important thing, the answer is probably no. Naval says a simple heuristic, which is if you're split on a decision, you don't know if you should go left or right, which one is going to be more painful in the short term? If the left is going to be a little bit more painful, he thinks in the short term, right? Short term, not for the long term. It's probably going to have a better outcome and more reward and more happiness, etc. in the long term. And so he says you should choose that. Remember, it made me think of easy choices lead to a hard life. Okay? But the harder choices, getting to a gym, investing in yourself, taking risks, getting educated, all that stuff, leads to an easier life. I wouldn't necessarily say easier. Okay? It's those harder things. And so do the things that are more painful in the short term that's going to get you the better long-term results. Naval says if you read science, math, and philosophy for about 1 hour a day, you will be in the upper echelon of society. And this is going to help you to have human success in about 7 years if you focus on this and doing this every day. You have to have a solid foundation for anything, right? But if you are building a house, you have to have the solid foundation to have a nice house. You have a nice foundation for a good relationship. Okay, anything. Wealth. In order for it to compound, you have to get it set up correctly in the foundation and then it'll multiply and grow, okay? So you have to really focus on this foundation. And so the best foundation for knowledge that leads to success, Naval says, is books. And so he reads about 2 hours a day, which puts him in the top like 0.001%. And he says that has been responsible for a lot of his success. And so seriously, read, watch YouTube videos, whatever you need to do, go to conferences, get around smart people, but literally reading 1 page of a book, 1 page will help train your brain and help you think differently. And so I highly recommend this. This has changed my life and I hope it will change yours too. And lastly, a calm mind, a fit body, a house full of love cannot be bought. It must be earned. Okay? So whatever you want, riches, happiness, good relationships, success, peace, whatever you want, it's going to be earned. Become the person, build what you need to build you, have a good foundation, do more personal development because your inner world reflects your outer world and your outer results. And you're going to get an amazing life. It is earned. It isn't easy. That's why I have these videos to support you and encouragement. Feel free to subscribe for more. I hope this video helped. You got this. Pick up this book if you want. I'll put it in the link below, description below. You got this. 1 step at a time. Here we go.